Hello everyone and welcome back. In this lesson we're going to start implementing the sign up functionality of our application. We are going to show how to add a user to an application step by step, starting from the sign up screen. We are going to send a request to the backend to create the user, show how to create a user on the backend and store securely its password on the database. We will then send back the user data back to the client, and we're going to show how to display any error messages concerning the user creation process if necessary. So let's switch to the sign up screen, and we will start implementing this by implementing here this sign up method. If we head over here to the template, you can see that this method is being called whenever we click the sign up button. Now, how are we going to implement this sign up? We are not going to inject the HTTP module right here. Instead, we are going to create an authentication service. That service will allow us to perform operations such as sign up, log in, log out, and it will also contain the data of the user. So depending on the presence of the data of the user, we are going to decide if we want to display the logout button or the two login or sign up buttons, depending on if the user is authenticated or not. So the first thing that we need to do is to head over here to the command line, and we're going to create an authentication service. So let's have a look where we are going to place it. We will put it here inside the services folder. So we are going to do ngg, which stands for generate. We are going to generate a service. We're going to put it in the services folder, and we're going to call it the auth service. If by some reason you would like to generate your service or component without generating a specification file, we can do --spec equals false, and this would generate only the service class, so here in the services folder. Now notice here that the service is generated, but it's not yet provided. So we are going to configure it here at the level of the application module as a global singleton. We are going to put it here at the level of the providers. Let's then start by defining the public API of this new service. So first we are going to see what we need to inject here at the level of the constructor, and we are going to be injecting the Angular HTTP client. Because we will be doing calls to the backend, we are going to do an HTTP post to create the new user. So in WebStorm with Alt-Enter, you can automatically import the dependency, in this case HTTP client. So we will be using this internally. It will not be exposed to the users of the authentication service. What they will see is, for example, a method called signup, where we will be passing in the email, which will be a string, and a password. This method will then trigger an HTTP post. We will implement that in a moment. Another part of the public API of the authentication service will be here an observable containing some data. We are going to add here a new model class, which is going to be called user. So this model class will be client-side specific, and it will define here the data of a given user. We are going to start only with a couple of properties that we will be using. We are going to define here a property for the ID of the user, which will be a number, and we will also have the email available here on the client side. The password of the user will not be available here on the client side. We will have a different class on the server. Right now, let's see how this class is part of the API of the new authentication service. So we are going to define here a variable which will end in $, which is an observable. And this observable will be an observable of the new user class that we just created. So any part of the application that needs the user data simply needs to have the authentication service injected and to subscribe here to this user observable. Before implementing this observable, let's see how it would be used by another part of the application. We are going to see if it's a good idea to consume this observable directly, or should we derive certain observables from it and consume those instead. Let's have a look at it. This is coming right up in the next lesson.